Hello everybody and welcome back to Learn Hittite, and today we're going to go through a lowdown on the Illyrian language. Now, if you've been watching some of my videos recently, you may have noticed that the name of Croatian linguist Professor Ranko Matasovic has come up once or twice. And a few days ago I was in conversation with a colleague and they were telling me about a film that they had recently seen about some Roman military unit doing battle against some rebels, and this was set in Illyria. Now, what's more, my colleague also told me that inside the film was an example of a speech in Illyrian language, and that Professor Ranko Matasovic had actually composed this Illyrian text. Now, I was absolutely gobsmacked when I heard this information, because according to my knowledge, Illyrian language is only attested in like a handful of glosses, and there's a few loan words and some personal names that we can use to kind of get an idea of how this language looks. So I was thinking to myself, how on earth did Professor Matasovic manage to create a text for this film? Now, we were talking about this because over the previous week, Orsat Ligorio had presented a critique of the Illyrian in the film at Belgrade University. Ligorio gave an overview of the Illyrian used in the film alongside a breakdown of some of the reconstructed forms, and finally he gave his overall opinion, which was a thumbs up. And for those who are unaware, Orsat has an excellent personal website which is full of information for all those interested in linguistics, so please do go and check that out. So all of this motivated me to dust off my old journals and books, to crack open my laptop and get myself up to speed with the current state of the art regarding Illyrian language. And the results of my endeavour I intend to present to you today. So what time period and location are we talking about? Well, we're in the Balkans on the west coast, facing the Adriatic Sea. The Illyrians feature in the historical record as a political entity and also as a term describing a large ethnic group extending deep into the Balkan mainland from the 5th century onwards. But obviously their presence in the region may or may not have reached back in time much further. And geographically, who's to say about the extent of Illyrian reach? Because Strabo, for example, stated that 2 tribes to the east of the Alps were Illyrian, but some linguists believe to have found Illyrian linguistic elements all over Europe, from the Baltic to the British Isles. Now, what I will say is that throughout history, there has been a tendency to throw everything that has an unclear or uncertain archaeological or linguistic origin into this generic Pan-Illyrian category. For sake of brevity, I'm going to take the map presented by Ligorio to be a decent enough approximation of Illyrian territory proper. Note that the term proper was also used by ancient writers to differentiate core Illyrian lands from those wider, perhaps ethnically or tribally affiliated territories. In terms of neighbouring entities, we have the Liburnians and Dalmato-Pannonians. Ligorio proposes, as we can see, that they are branches on the hypothetical Illyro-Albanian offshoot of Indo-European. However, other academics are more cautious regarding their affiliation. So, what language family did Illyrian belong to? Well, that's currently the million-lek question. Based on the fact that we have so few reliable examples of Illyrian, the ultimate answer to such a question will always be highly debatable. A lot of what is said about Illyrian actually stems from languages it is supposed to be related to. For example, some linguists consider Illyrian a Kentum language based on the fact it is supposed to be related to Venetic, which is believed to be a Kentum language also, although the connections between Venetic itself is based on the odd historical comment and the relative geographic proximity of presumed Venetic and Illyrian dialect continuums. Some linguists propose a connection with the Messapic language, and whilst the connection may indeed be there, based on cognate analysis at least. The exact relationship between Messapic and Illyrian is difficult to define. Forster plays down the importance of Messapic terms in understanding Illyrian, whilst authors like Hillestead and Joseph see the relationship as being much closer. Now, prior to the 1970s, there was a tendency for a lot of marginally attested languages or tribal groupings to be thrown into a kind of generic Pan-Illyrian melting pot. Sometimes I've even seen it described as Illyromania, which is basically attributing anything that has an Indo-European etymology that can't be assigned to a specific branch as Illyrian. For example, in Ptolemy's geography, a river mouth named Argita is described, referring to the River Ban in Ireland, and linguist Julius Pokorny believed the name to be derived from Illyrian, despite having a perfectly good Celtic etymology as pointed out by Hiemeyer in 1952. Pan-Illyrianism is therefore something that we are not going to look at today, and instead we're focusing on Illyrian proper. Many linguists, like Ranko Matasovic and others, believe that Illyrian is a form of proto-Albanian. This assumption is partly based on the fact that the territory of modern-day Albanian-speaking populations roughly overlays the historical Illyrian proper region. There's also genetic evidence of relative population continuity since the Bronze Age. We have so little knowledge of Illyrian that I don't see a reason to go against this argument, and as Ranko said at the end of his 1976 book, and I'll quote, "The only thing one can do is to keep an open mind while remembering that in this controversy the burden of proof is with those who deny the Illyrian descent of Albanian." Prior to 1958, if you had wanted to take a look at an Illyrian text, you would probably have ended up stumbling upon this. It was found inscribed on a bronze ring, presumably left as a grave good in northern Albania. Anna is a form often found in Messapic inscriptions prior to the name of a female deity. It might function as a preposition associated with the dative, or perhaps it means goddess, but more than likely it simply means mother, easily derivable from the Proto-Albanian form Nana, and based on this, linguist Hans Krah put forward the following translation. And because of the inscription via Anna, it also conveniently demonstrated a relationship between Illyrian proper and Messapic. Now the problem was that Bulgarian archaeologist Ognenova, and actually this is an apparent example of why interdisciplinary studies are so important, identified that the ring containing the inscription was unearthed in a Byzantine archaeological setting, and that by reading the inscription from bottom to top, one could come up with the following Greek interpretation. This interpretation was subsequently accepted by the likes of Ranko and others, thus removing our only real Illyrian inscription. There is a second putative example, but it's most likely to be Etruscan or Umbrian. The misinterpretation of the ring inscription has often been cited as an example of the excesses of Illyromania, where even battle-hardened linguists can fall into the trap of a narrow-minded approach when analysing an inscription that they fail to see any other likely alternatives. However, I don't share this opinion. Ranko said himself that the reading put forward by Krah was brilliant. Brilliant but wrong. I admit that the archaeological evidence is important, but not necessarily compelling, and to me the interpretation by Ognenova looks a little forced. I'm personally in favour of Krah's interpretation. Having looked at a number of other Messapic inscriptions recently, the ring fits the format of a Messapic inscription. However, equally, it may just mean that the inscription on the ring is Messapic, not necessarily Illyrian. Well, you may be wondering by now, what do we actually know about Illyrian language, considering the fact that the language and its people were a little bit tricky to pin down? Well, actually, we do have some tantalising insights into the language, mainly via glosses. So around the 5th or 6th century AD, Hesychius of Alexandria compiled a lexicon of unusual words, and inside that lexicon we have the following. So we have an Illyrian word and its Greek translation, or in English, satyr. So this is some pretty useful evidence. Obviously we don't know how corrupted the word is, but it's a starting point. Katicic deems the word to be related to the Sanskrit duhnoti. He shakes, implying that the Indo-European duh corresponds to duh in Illyrian. In the Scholion to Odyssey, we find the following. This word in Greek means mist or darkness. And here we can see the Illyrian term rhinon. And it's believed to be cognate with the modern Albanian word re, meaning cloud. This perhaps hints to an Illyrian-Albanian connection, although of course individual proposed cognates mean nothing on their own. We also have a few more attestations, including 2 types of weapon and 2 mentions of a type of beer. And when looking at toponyms, hydronyms and anthroponyms, we get a similar story: Indo-European etymologies and possible Albanian cognates. For example, the reasonably popular Albanian female name, Teuta, was also the name of an Illyrian tribal queen regent, and clearly derives from the proto-Indo-European Teute, meaning people. One interesting observation put forward again by Katicic is the presence of t and st in Illyrian when forming ethnonyms from toponyms. Interestingly, the dative and ablative cases in modern Albanian share a similar ending. On the screen now, I'm going to put up some books and articles for those people who are interested in travelling further down the Illyrian rabbit hole. So you might be wondering to yourself, how exactly did Professor Matasovic go about creating the Illyrian text for the film Illyricum? Well, he speaks about it with his colleagues Iva Bidyan Laura and Petra Matovic in the following paper. Firstly, he acknowledges the impossibility of reliably reconstructing an Illyrian text and uses the term invented. It is also stated that this invented Illyrian is based on Proto-Albanian forms combined with plausible independent developments from Proto-Indo-European. Intelligently, Matasovic also took into consideration the abilities of the actors involved and tried to come up with a type of Illyrian speakable by actors who are in no way linguists. Definitely check out the film if you can get access to it. It's worthy of a watch, if only to hear that Illyrian in action, and it's definitely better than the last Roman themed film that I saw. Well, that's all from me for today. I do hope you found this video enjoyable and informative. If you're motivated to do so, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It was truly an honour for me today to have this opportunity to speak to you. I'll be back very shortly with another video on something very interesting. I wish everybody a great day and goodbye for now.